this is coming from an evolutionary standpoint. Are we, okay, so what I mean is when we were hunter-gatherer tribes before we became agrarian societies and then developed into what we are today, there have been research papers that say that, mostly humanity used to be polygamous. Do you think that we have confined ourselves to be creatures that we weren't meant to be with the whole marriage and you should be monogamous, that kind of a dialogue? Do you think that that has affected our psychology? And if so, should we talk more about polygamous relationships? Should that be in the mainstream conversation more often? Is that healthy psychologically? Yeah, I just want to ask that.
I think we had a discussion a little bit about that.
Would you like to take that one? I just have something silly to say, nothing. We were shooting and the director just said that in your poly relationships there's so many rules to follow. In your mono relationships there's only one. So it's just easier. But sorry, there's nothing constructive that I can say to that. I wonder about the same thing, to be honest. So, yeah.
I think we did have a word about this, and I've been on debates that we've had between clinical psychologists about open marriages, and how do we, because we've not been taught when we were taught clinical psychology, because there weren't any Indian context books to teach how to handle open marriages or open relationships, and then as a therapist or as a clinical psychologist, how do we take this in, because it's true. I mean, from a kind of evolutionary perspective, it is difficult, and monogamous relationships could be difficult. But I personally feel that it depends a lot on what your motivations are in terms of what you want to do and where you want to take this. I would agree with Dhruv that we've seen people in open marriages, and a lot of time, a lot of issues come up with that as well, right? Because there are rules like, if you're seeing someone outside this particular main relationship, then you see them say 3 times, But what if there's a 4th time? Then what happens to this main relationship, right? So I feel like if you really want to kind of have that dialogue, then I think it has to come from a very safe space, from a very secure perspective, and not from this perspective that, I'm going to get different things from different people, I'm going to kind of form different attachments, and that's going to make me feel great because I have multiple attachments compared to someone who has one. It depends on which space you're coming from in this, I think. Yeah.
I'm just going to speak to that for a little bit, what you just said, right? Which is the fact that the evolutionary origins or the agrarian part, if you look at Sapiens, a friend of mine reads a lot about this, that's how I know. But the point here is that a lot of ancient things people talk about as credible in some way. It's okay to maybe smoke cannabis because it's natural. It's okay to be a certain race agrarian. It was also evolutionarily natural to club your neighbor's partner over the head and drag her back to your cave, right? It's unlikely I can propose that without significant consequences in most settings. So the first thing is, just because it's natural doesn't mean it's constructive. That's step one. The second part is, and again, Harari talks about this in detail, is that our innovation has outpaced our evolution. So culture is very far ahead. This little thing here, not mine specifically, is very antiquated, right? It's a useless piece of kit. You've given a finite being that needs to fornicate, sleep, die, an infinite imagination. So fact is, our existence is designed to be quite distressing most of the time. And that's just something we have to live with. Coming back to the point you started with about polygamy and monogamy, is like, it's difficult enough with these attachment styles to manage one person. So, I mean, let's assume I crack polygamy. There's 4 calendars, there's 4 Zoom calls, and 4 breakups to manage, potentially. And it's a brave person who puts themselves through that. But if someone's got secure attachment styles, I'd encourage the experiment. But do I think it's the smartest thing to do? I'm 50-50 about that, at least with my little thing here.